Yo, what's up? This is Splendid Radio. Excuse me. This is Splendid Radio on PharcydeTV with my co-host Jeremy Scipio is out there doing big things in the world, but I'm not mad. You know, I'm blessed to have one of my homeboys on tonight, Mr. Josh David. You know, he's a guy that I met like probably around 2008. We were doing Rock the Bell shows around 2008, but we got cool in Australia. That was kind of when we kind of had time away from the super hustle and bustle and all that. And man, I'll say the Far Side has given me a lot of gifts, but one of the best gifts is a friendship with you, Josh. You've always been solid. You know what I'm saying? When you come into town, we straight. It's always a cool vibe. And it's always interesting to me when I meet guys that have these super talents on stage, but then away from the stage, they're real people. You know what I'm saying? And when I say real people, I mean, you're not a rock star. You know what I'm saying? Like, but so far from it. You know what I'm saying? So far from it. And it's been a pleasure for me to watch you from Q-Tip, the introduction, then to just see you play with Judah Tribe, which, man, Judah Tribe, if anybody's watching, man, go to YouTube and look up Judah Tribe if you want some real old school sounding reggae. Like that is a real dope old school reggae band. And then from Judah Tribe to you you played with Little Jackie. Yeah, and that was that was a trip because when I was watching the video, you were the furthest thing from my mind when I was listening to the song. It was like really catchy tune. It was a really catchy tune. Then I saw you in the video and I'm like, oh man, my man makes his rounds to where you are now with the Wailers. And so the last time that we tried the Zoom situation, we just the technical gods weren't on our side, but now we cool running, we right in the pocket. So with that being said, we gonna have this interview like we've never had an interview before, and I'm gonna bring people kind of up to speed with like who you are. So when was the first time that you heard hip hop that you can remember, and what was the song?
Well, first I want to say thank you, big bro, for having me. You know, I want to say, like, being in Australia, I remember a big bag of herb cookies was a part of our uniting factor. So God bless for the unity. I want to say hip hop for me started as a lad with my cousin Michael. You know, he played, like, he was always playing hip hop, you know, like growing up in Roselle, New Jerusalem and Linden, you know. Run DMC was around us, you know, but I remember, like, particularly when Scenario came out, he had that joint on blast. And me and my cousin, we was in the back seat listening, like, you know, like going wild, like with this, whoa, you know. Tribe Called Quest, big up Q-Tip, you know. Big up Long Live Fife, Ali Shahi, Jerobi, you know, love. That was how we got together with Rock the Bells. And so, like, I owed a great part to him, Michael, my cousin Michael Oates, who I thought was LL Cool J growing up because they kind of looked alike, but he used to play LL, and I used to be like, I wonder, you know. Yeah.
Nah. So what part of New York did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in New Jerusalem, Jersey side, Roselle, but I have family in Brooklyn, so I grew up on both sides, you know, spending time with family in both places.
Okay. You know? What was your first instrument?
My first instrument was really the guitar, drums, like drums and guitar. When I was 2, I messed with the guitar and broke it. After that, it took me some time. I was singing after that from about 2 on, and then like at 7, I started playing drums. I wanted to learn because, again, Shawnee, who was my older cousin, like my brother, he was a fire drummer from New Jerusalem. So he inspired me to take up them instrument early.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. But no, that's cool. So you come from a musical family, and where did you guys play music together? Or like, where did you see them? Were they in bands and then you were just like the younger cousin around watching them play in bands, or how did that work out?
Oh man, it was church. Church brought us all together, man. Like from like church daycare when we was picnic to children's choir, little starlights we were, and then to, my auntie leading the choir, and we having to sing, whenever it's first Sundays, the children, always get together and sing, and I'm kind of sitting there.
Hey man, this is a great movie. It sounds like a great screenplay for
One
for a
day.
movie. That's tight though. That's tight. So basically your cousins were kind of like your earlier musical mentors that you kind of like saw them come into their own with the.
Definitely, like especially Shawnee, because he was so young. He was 2 years older than me, and I remember he was so advanced. Like he's the one put me up on Dennis Chambers and Gary Granger video with John Schofield. We was teenagers. Like he left us in '96. I was 14 at the time, going on 15. So like I started playing bass at 12. But from I was 12, he was way ahead. He was telling me about Marcus Miller, and them kind of people there. And, we grew up in gospel. I grew up listening to Reggie Parker, Reggie Young, them kind of the gospel legend them. And he was like broadening my mind outside of that. And like even reggae music, I remember before he transitioned, he was singing, no, no, no. And I hadn't heard it because like the reggae I knew was like ska, My Boy Lollipop in Jamaica ska, when my mother sing to me. I wasn't even, he was way advanced,
Wow. Wow, that's great. Because listening to you play, and we're gonna get into who Josh is. I'm kind of building him up a little bit, but he's definitely like it's crazy because on the show, Josh, I tell people that I have this blessing where I meet people and they're like at the top of their game. Like they're just really they're really as passionate as I am about life and the things that I get into. Like I meet people who are like just as passionate like about their things. And I could say the interesting thing about you is you can play hip hop, you can play jazz, you tell me you have the gospel roots, and you can play reggae, and like you play all of them well. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you're stumbling and you're like a hip hop bass player trying to play some reggae, some reggae bass lines, or a reggae bass line, or a reggae bass player who's trying to play some jazz or whatever. So as you were going to junior high school and whatnot, what type of genres of music were you listening to? Because where I'm trying to go with this is, did reggae come first? Did hip hop come first? Where did jazz come into this? Because I've heard you play some stuff. To my ear, sounds like some really good jazz music. So like, what was your musical journey?
Well, I want to take you just a little bit before middle school to the days of the barbershop. Long, long time ago, as you can see. But I just remember going to the barbershop sometime there, and in Linden, New Jersey. You may know Tom Sumner from Def Jam. His brother and father was in a group with my uncle, Danny Thomas. They had a band called Bingo.
Okay.
So when I go to the barbershop on a Thursday or Friday for my haircut or my shape up, I'm hearing original music. And they were like the local Earth, Wind and Fire. Mm-hmm. Then I hearing jazz music. That was my introduction to jazz in the barbershop.
Okay.
And now when I get to middle school now, I have to tell you about Miss Campbell, my teacher. She was, a local hero. She was from our heritage and culture, and she taught us songs like To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. In a time for every purpose under heaven. You know, and so some Beatles tunes, and you know, she used to call me preacher. Kind of time one time she asked me what a song mean, and I must tell her something where it was spiritual, and she used to call me preacher. But she put us onto them like those folklore, those cultural songs, you know, where it's a part of American history that kind of teach you a different side out of the gospel. And you know, it was at the same time there where my brother Tim, you know, put me up on Wailers Legend. You know, he was the drummer in church. This was after Shawnee, my brother, had passed. So he was playing the drums for the church, and I was the upcoming bass player. Well, on the way to church, we would listen to Bob Marley and the Wailers Legend with a spliff light, you know, getting ready for service to play. Not in the mindset of getting high, but in the mindset of tuning in spiritually. And there's one sister in school, Sister Garling Crawford. We used to reason about Wailers and how heavy this music every day. In middle school, you know, seeing. So high school is when I start getting to more like playing hip hop. Like we grew up hearing it, but I remember I was playing with one of my brethren from New Jerusalem, Donovan Jackson. He was MD for Faith Evans, and also played with Lauryn Hill's first Miseducation tour.
Oh,
you know, and he had a group called Joshua Generation. And every Saturday we would go down to his father church there in Elizabeth. Him and my cousin Kenny, Donovan Jackson, Seth, Jah rest him soul, Jeff Motley, singers. We'd go there and jam, but like we was a rebel crew. So, you know, we bond with herb and listen to music and drink with Guinness, you know, and just, you know, kick it. But I remember one time up at the loft in brother Jeff Motley's crib one day. We're there up on the loft, and the man had the sound system set up. He played for Lauren too, along with Jamie Hawkins. But in this particular night, he had the sound system put up, and we were jamming to, he had a Tribe Called Quest, the Love Movement on, and that had just came out. So we had some big fat blunt light up, passing them around. I had my bass. We was all on our instruments, and we played the whole album with it live from top to bottom. See? And now, little did I know, going to college, my first year of college, a friend of mine, Jonathan Blake, jazz drummer who was playing with the Mingus Big Band at the time, would introduce me to Q-Tip. Me and my brethren, Chris Sholar, Kelvin Sholar, introduced us to Q-Tip, who came and hung out with us at the Time Cafe at the time, across from Tower Records in the city. We went and watched the Mingus Big Band. He carried us to Tower Records and bought each of us a bag full of CDs. The next day, he had an audition for us with the great legend Weldon Irving, Jah rest him soul. And those who don't know Master Well, he was like, while I was in school, my first year I was in as a gospel stowaway, you know, trying to get into the jazz program. But Weldon was my first jazz teacher in time. He would sit with me and Weldon alone in Q-Tip basement, and he would teach me jazz theory. Now, Weldon is co-writer of the song with Nina Simone, To Be Young, Gifted, and Black, you know, and so it's been a thread and a long history, and I'm grateful, you know, just to have gone through those blessed experience, and just to even be able to talk about it now. I give thanks, you know.
So
that's my 19th birthday party.
so real quick though.
Yeah.
So the very first time you met Tip was?
That was first year of college. I was 18.
Okay.
When I was 18, yeah, and Tip threw my 19th birthday party, matter of fact.
Dang, so he saw something, like he knew, or rather you guys kind of not kindred spirits, but when you met, you knew that there was like a connection that was musical and beyond.
Oh yeah, like we were sharpening each other. Like Tip was putting us on to music, Milton Nascimento, like Led Zeppelin, you know, them kind of
No.
thing there. And that was like next level because I grew up on P Funk. We from the same county, Union County, New Jersey. So I grew up on P Funk. But you see, then I start hearing Sly and the Family Stone, you know what I mean? And listening to all kind of music, listening to the Police, which was the 80s, and I didn't penny it, but then like coming around as an adult, listening to the Police, you know, and just like hanging out with Q-Tip, going next to Tower Records to the brother Julian. We used to sell videos, buying live videos and of these old concerts, James Brown class. Man, that was part of my education.
So he was kind of grooming you. So he basically was like, okay, I got this young bass player because it was the bass that you were on at this time, right?
Yeah, and he made us sing too. I was like, what do you think is Jermaine Jackson? But I learned, you know, he taught me something that I didn't know I could do.
Oh, wow.
You know.
Wow. What was the name of your first band?
My first band was called Legacy. And I was in college at the time, and my uncle Vaughn, who was the assistant attorney general for the state of New Jersey at the time, asked me to put a band together for a function that he was having. So I called Chris Scholar, same way. This was before we met Tip even. Marlon Bonds, who co-produced the song with Swiss B. She ain't got no money in the bank. She be out there, you know. Marlon Bonds, Cornell Fields, great pianist. Jameo Brown, great drummy. And we jammed that party, man. And like, we got hired for different gigs and we played, you know, and we started growing and the musical family started growing same time, you know?
Yeah, no, that's and this is not meant with any disrespect, but there was a part when Tip, you would get a solo during Tip's show back when we were in like Australia, whatever. And it was almost like Ron Carter, man. It was like some very deep jazz bass playing solo. And it was crazy because I always wondered, I'm like, man, when you have an artist like Q-Tip, he has the cream of the crop. Everyone, you know, most people love Tribe Called Quest, love hip hop, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But it was interesting to me how, like, I can't remember who the drummer was for that particular tour, but basically all the musicians were kind of like people who Tip had dealt with, and he kind of knew who they were, and he was like, come on, you know what I'm saying? Like yeah. Basically he curated his band, you know what I'm saying? So it was interesting that he kind of curated you to a level, but at the same time, when you were talking about Tower Records, he also got music to expose you to, like, okay, this guy Josh I know is dope, but I'm gonna give him this music because it may give him a different perspective. That's pretty dope.
Well, yeah, man, because I was a weather report Jaco Pastorius, you know, like I know Victor Wood, Marcus Miller and them, but like my sound was more so like Jaco. And we spent so much time in the studio rehearsing, my brother. I tell you, we hadn't even done no gigs. We started recording and creating the music, which became Kamal the Abstract.
Okay.
Like we spent so much time rehearsing, and I remember, I'll get to that, but a long story. Before I went and started, went solo, so to say. I did a hit with Common through a friend of mine, Deshaun Jenkins, also through church, and that's how I met Keon Harold, playing with Common, and end up on his album, Musician. But yeah, man, I did a hit with Common. If it wasn't the first hit for his Like Water for Chocolate tour, I just one gig we did, you know. But I remember playing with Keon on keys as well. There's like great cast of musicians, DJ Dummy. But like working with Q-Tip at that time also helped me get ready for that situation, because we were, you know, like Chris Scholar is from Detroit. So we was listening to Slum Village, you know what I mean? And Tribe Called Quest. That's what we was checking out. So now here it comes. Now I get to apply it to a live show with Common. And I feel like my head was, you know, like we played the show, but like, you know, Miss Young coming up.
Yeah.
I don't know what I sounded like, but I remember just them kind of helping me too, like to get out of a certain range of the bass and get to the belly of the you know, the belly of the bass. And you know, just even that one time with Common helped me a great deal as a musician, you know.
I'm gonna step out on the limb, but I'm gonna say I'm almost positive it was you, because I know that something had happened, and when Tip was touring, for whatever reason, you couldn't make it to the House of Blues show, or you didn't come out to the House of Blues show. And I thought that was kind of dope, because I almost want to say that maybe you had a show with Judah Tribe or something like that at the time, or it was something, but it was dope to me because it's like, okay, here it is. You're dealing with Tip. I mean, man, at the time of Kamal the Abstract and Tip like really doing like a solo thing, like he was the man, you know what I'm saying? He could curate, but you always kept your own bands, not necessarily above, not necessarily below, but your own bands have always been a priority to you. And I thought that was just like, that's fair. You know what I'm saying? That's really dope. But I want to say that I'm almost positive it was you in a clip that I saw. It might have been at the Las Vegas House of Blues, where Prince showed up at a show.
Yeah.
And he started playing the guitar and he kind of came out. Now, was Chris at that show?
Yes, Chris was.
Oh, wow.
Scratch.
Okay.
Mark Glasper or Casey Benjamin. But yeah, it's funny that night before was the show that I missed, because Judah Tribe had a performance at Brooklyn Academy of Music, honoring Sean Bell, and whose father-in-law was our bandmate at the time, guitarist Les Paltry. So I had to fly home for that show. And the next day we came back, and Tip is like, Prince is coming. I was like, yeah, right. You know how many times I hear Prince is coming between you and Little Jackie? Is like, not Little Jackie, sorry, Andy Allo, who's a great artist who Prince produced. But I was vexed even more because my bass got left in Los Angeles 2 nights before. And I learned the hard way, like self-reliance, to carry your own shit, you know? But man, so now they're talking about Prince coming. No, he's for real coming this time. And I was like, fuck, I don't even got my axe. So I'm vexed, and they had to rent a bass for me. And if you watch it carefully, you'll see, like, I don't know. Me was young again. I was salty for some reason about that, just because I was like, I just felt like Prince is coming. I want to make the best impression.
Yeah.
You know, you can see it on my face. I was like, yeah, but I would have been playing better if I had my other bass, you know? But that was my only time being anywhere near the great Prince. And like, you know, like legend says, I never talked to him after that. He vanished in a cloud of smoke, and I never seen him again. You know,
that is a testimony to kind of like you hear crazy things about like certain artists, and then you hear other things that are more like charitable, like kind of dope, kind of cool, that shows their human side. And it was dope to me because I want to say it was Vibrant Thing.
Yeah, true.
And so Prince comes out and he starts playing, and it was kind of like, I felt like it was kind of like him, even though he's like, man, I want to say he played like all the instruments on Dirty Mind or something like that, like super mastermind musician, all this. He shows up to some hip hop stuff. He comes out and he does the cool little guitar licks on Vibrant Thing, but it wasn't like he tried to upstage anybody or just do anything that, which I did see him. As a matter of fact, shout out to Star Child Jr.
Yeah, man.
Yep,
That's right.
yep. Gary Scheider Jr. He brought it to my attention. He said, if you want to see some Prince, you look at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when he was playing with the remaining Beatles, and I want to say Tom Petty was singing, and
Oh,
it
I
was a
know what
couple
you're
other
talking
cats,
about.
and it was I forget the name of the song, my guitar weeps or something
Gently
like that.
weeps, yeah. Like while my guitar gently weeps.
And oh man, Prince came out there, man. And I'm a Tom Petty fan. I'm a Beatles fan to an extent, but I'm more of a Tom Petty fan.
See,
But man, Prince came out there, man, and he did it to that stage, man. And that's me touring with the Far Side for so many years and being able to see the difference between a good show, a mediocre show, a show where people are more or less and I'm not talking about necessarily Far Side shows, just shows with people performing around the genre of the Far Side. Like I saw some of my like old school legends come out, but it was more or less nostalgia that they were bringing more than like something dope.
see,
But when Prince came out there with Tom Petty and them cats, even with him holding back, he was superior, like on a whole nother level of
yeah.
guitar playing with those guys. And I just felt that it was dope that he came to a Q-Tip show and he played the guitar and he didn't do anything to just like next level it, but he just was like a part of the band, you know, with the guys and brought something really dope. But I just wanted to bring that point because man, that's one of my favorite YouTube clips to this day.
Man, yeah, he was just funking around, man. And you know, you just made me realize something. I was complaining, but Prince played Chris guitar. Seeing Chris gave up
Ah,
his guitar, so Prince was playing a different guitar too. So
yeah.
you
And
know,
that's crazy because now that I'm thinking about it, they did hand the guitar off to him.
yeah,
Yeah, man, that's amazing. But it's a trip though. Back to Q-Tip, Chris and his brother are like incredible musicians too, man. It's like, man, Tip just had this cast of, and even we got to give props to Tip because he brought the Static Selector out when Static Selector didn't even have a name. He
see,
didn't even have a name. What I remember about Static Selector, he was a young dude out on the road in Australia. I was on the phone a lot, and I heard he ran up a pretty hefty cell phone bill or whatever.
Wait, little did you know.
A hefty cell phone bill, and then when we get back and a couple years pass, Static Selector has this thing going with Sirius and just all this stuff, and I'm like, wow, I knew this guy when he was just, you know what I'm saying? He was at a level, but once again, to Tip being the musical director of his own band, props to him. You know what I'm saying? Like even I want to say, did you play the bass on that Nora Jones song?
Yeah, man.
Oh man, that was some
Life
very
is better.
serious jazz bassing right there, man. Like even that, like that's dope. That's dope. So tell me this:
Mm.
at the time you were working with Tip, did he have like a unit of kind of players that he used and then all you guys kind of practice together, or there will be times where he would call you out and then he kind of mix and match you up with different musicians?
No, we was the unit. Like we had when we hit the road, it was like 2008 when I first hit the road with Tip, and we had Mark Kohlenberg on drums, Chris Always, we had Casey Benjamin, but we had Rob Glasper at first. Rob Glasper. We had Mark Carey, who played on Getting Up. Yeah, but like mainly like the keys chair, because Rob, you know, Rob took off, and that's my brother. And I had fun like working with Glasper in the beginning stages before he signed to Blue Note. You know, I had those opportunities to play with him,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, Blake at that time had went on continued doing his jazz thing, and yeah, man, it was like scratch, like you said, and Static Selector, you know, and that was like the crew. You know,
Man.
we one crew for like a year plus, you know, and the next year, like, and we were touring. I remember we were touring, opening for Tribe for Rock the Bells. You know,
Okay.
we would do a 20-minute set. So that's when like we were grinding, you know, and got to that's how we end up meet, you know.
Yeah, our man, the band was incredible.
Man,
So if you had to choose vocals, guitar, or bass,
I would say bass.
okay. So, but that's crazy because to me, you can play guitar, bass, and sing. They're all like on the same level. Like, you know, but bass is more of your passion.
Bass is what I learned how to do all of those things on.
Okay.
I learned how to sing on the bass. I learned how to hold the groundation on the bass, and I learned how to solo and improvise on the bass. So that helped my guitar playing. It also helped with singing. Cause before I write song on the guitar, I used to write the bass line first. Like the one song on Judah Tribe album, New Day Dawning, there's a song called Smile. Well, before that song, right, in a reggae, all I had was the bass line. You know, I didn't know. I said, you know, now look for the inspiration for a beat, a rhythm for put under it, but just the bass line. Scoop, skido, bido, bido, bidi, bido, udo, skudo, be, skido, skido, bido, udo, skido, udo. So then I listened to Dennis Brown. The man have one tune where I remember the song my mother used to sing each and every morning. There's a fire burning outside. The mothers and sisters. So if you can't be good, you gotta be careful. And so we hear the rhythm and we just said, yo, that rhythm there, you know, like like, yeah, because that have the hip hop and it have the element of the reggae, and we put it together.
So the 16-year-old Josh, what genres of music were you listening to at the time?
16. What year that? 97. I listening to Marcus Miller, Jaco Pastorius, Victor Wooten, again, Bob Marley and the Wailers. Plenty gospel music, Hezekiah Walker, and you know, I was also my uncle, the church, Bishop George C. Wright and Royal Priesthood. That was my first recording around that time at 16. So like we were young budding musicians coming up in like that coming of age gospel music, you know, where it started getting more musical. And I say it wasn't in the beginning. Gospel music was always influenced by jazz musicians, but we had to do that groundbreaking for our generation, you know, and that was like a great part of it. Also, you know, being in the church with my uncle them and family them, and for them church was like, they used to call it Club 59, you know, but like we would get in trouble for playing Stevie Wonder during service. But I'm like, if I never tell you a certain song, you wouldn't know. But you know, we learn keeps it holy.
Yeah, because when I listen to your bass playing, I get the gospel's the backbone, but like I hear either like some very serious roots and some reggae stuff going on, or just very accomplished jazz, man. It's like very, like, yeah, very, like, put it this way. When you're on tour with people and you're seeing them more than like 15 times, some people, you learn who you like and you learn who you don't like. Not to say that I didn't think Tribe Called Quest was dope or just whatever, But when you were on stage, I was there to kind of hear the band. You know what I'm saying? I would make my way around to like kind of hear the band, and then that was kind of like, okay, you know, the band is dope. You like the band, that you know, that's what it is. Because when you're out with a band for more than like 15 dates or so, it's kind of like the thrill is gone. When it's just nostalgic, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, man, I'm going to eat. You know, I can hear it just as good as I can hear it on the side of the stage. I can hear it over there where they got that food at, and you know that's cool enough. But nah, man. And then two, you had the wonderful experience of performing with the late great Fife, man. That was a big deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That was a big deal. Yeah. So at what moment did you feel like you could make a living as a musician?
Shit, it's a crossroads every time. I tell you what, man. Money, them could have never pay me for I experience. The wealth of it is beyond the value of money. You know, it's just man, we is blessed. Jah is good. It make we learn plenty of things that we can share with the next generation. Because me as a teacher since I was 16, I teach music. So everything where we is learning, and you know, it's not just for our own self, you know, it's first off to the bands where we're blessed to play with, we have to give something back to, you know, we want to make the sound what it's supposed to be. And then to those listening who want to now elevate themselves, we have to give that back to them, that knowledge. So it's just,
you know, to your credit, about, oh man, it might have been like 3 or 4 years ago now, but when you introduced me to Ashton Barrett Jr., that was crazy because I'm at the hotel and you and I are kicking it. And he comes and he kicks it, and it's like we three brothers kicking it, like talk. And at the time, I didn't understand who he was. I knew who his father was. You know what I'm saying? I knew who his father was, but it was a trip because we kicked it and we talked and we chilled out for an hour or so or whatever, and we talked, and then you guys went to go and do your thing. And then later on, I think when I saw you at the county fair or whatever, and I saw him do his thing on the drums, I was like, dang. I was like, man, these are some accomplished musicians, man. These are the real deal. And I guess the reason why I get fascinated is because once again, you know, dealing with the Pharcyde, I've seen a million bands. So I know dudes that can play, and I know dudes that can do good enough to carry through a show or whatever. But when I meet cats that are accomplished, dude, that really just blows me back, and I feel blessed. Like, man, you know someone that really is good at what they do. You know what I'm saying? And then passionate about it, because there's a difference. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, there's no amount of money that you probably could be paid for the experience, because the experience is, once again, you being around the likes of a Robert, not saying that he made you or whatever, but you being around the likes of a Robert Glasper at a certain space in the time, you being around Chris Solar and his brother at a certain space in time. Because to me, dude, Chris is a very incredible guitar player, man. Like, man, he does his thing. He does his thing. So
producer, music, instrumentalist.
Oh wow, I didn't know about the production part.
Yeah, man. I remember he was on a track playing guitar with Whitney Houston and produced with Just Blaze, Petey Pablo, and Freeway, and you know.
Okay.
He worked with Rodney Jenkins. Is how I meet Rodney Jenkins. Is Chris Solar make me meet Joy Dinalani, who put out my first tune as a songwriter, Sometimes Love. Joy Dinalani from Germany, who is now signed to Motown. You know, so Chris is a crucial. Again, he come from Detroit, so like level of musicianship. Mind you, I have to tell you about this brother. he has all of the same gospel, hip hop upbringing, but as a jazz musician, him and Kelvin, them different. He was a young lion when Chris was a teenager playing for Stanley Turrentine.
Woo.
You know what I mean? Like, and hearing stories of Stanley Turrentine touring at his age in, you know, in the Jim Crow days and like what that was like. So, man, this heritage, it go deep, man. That's why we're grateful for this opportunity, for the I have we, so we can share these things. We live it and recite it, but you know, we want the next generation know the wealth and value of brotherhood in whatever capacity or gifts or talents, you know. Teamwork.
Nah, that's tight. That's tight. So tell me this. One last one about the whole Q-Tip situation. What was the first rehearsal like with Tip?
Oh man. It was just like, he was, you know, Tip is a DJ. So like for him, we go in his basement and he has the setup, you know, the sound system.
Yeah.
And like he takes us shopping to Sam Ash and, you know, Guitar Center, what you want to play. Anything, any instrument we want, he'll get it. If we say this sound hot, he'll get whatever. So we go back to his house and just try out a bunch of shit. Like I remember we get one pedal and we just try it. So we put on some Tribe. And then me and Chris, we know each other from church. So like me and him know how to lock in a certain way. Like where you hear in reggae music, how you have the stick guitar playing the bass line. Before me ever know that style in reggae music, I saw me and Chris play because we listened to, you know, like Chicago and Chic and, you know, Police. So that's kind of with style. And we just like, yo, we're gonna lick him with this and make him hear this. And we hit it. Then we hit him with some country shit, like just playing some country funky shit. Like, and Tip would always be like, yo, where you nigga come from? It's like, you know,
some OG bluegrass on them.
We would like put anything in the music, like with some, of course it's hip hop, but we would throw shit in there just to blow Tip mind, you know?
Nah, that's dope. So how did you start performing with the Wailers?
Wow, Jah works totally. I remember a long time, you know, when you ask the Father to keep you in tune and online, He will show you things to come. And you know, one of the things where Him show me from long time, show me I singing with a band where it's not I own band, which we couldn't imagine at that time because it was dedicated to the Tribe. But in 2012, Judah Tribe got called to open for the Wailers at NJ Pack. And yeah, this was to be our third time performing there. And it was, last time we had played there was for the 10-year anniversary. So I didn't know we would ever play there again. We played 2 times and it was nice. So when we get the call for open for Wailers, you know, we go there and I hear in some bass as we walking up for sound check, and I said, sound like Family Man, but I said it sound little different, like more current, you know, like I said to myself, it sound like a young Family Man. And lo and behold, I walk to the stage, I only see Fam's reverse time to Fam's Jr. Him clone himself and come back and put Aston Jr. there. And from that time, like he and I kept a link and in hopes to work together outside of Judah Tribe and Wailers, but just as musicians. I might never really step on Wailers and him might never step on we for come sing for Wailers, or because him know a Judah Tribe is I band. But I remember one time I mentioned to me, say, boy, Josh, would I love for bringing out Wailers, but Wailers thing tied up. But we never think on that. See? But years later now, I reason with my brethren, at the temple, and the man said to me, say, Judah, you know, say you could go out there and work a thing with whalers and, you know, take care of your family the same way and do your thing. I say, make me link, my brother. Come at them time they are working as a musician, like steady, you know, in New York is hustling. So all of them experience working with 7 and 8 bands in a month, teach you a lot of different, you have to learn and, you know, interpret.
A lot of music.
It's a lot of music, you know? So it's like, we'll try a different thing now. And it's work for His Majesty as a Rastafarian. What better job can you have than to sing Jah music, you know? So it's like, all right. So we call Aston and say, yo, Aston, if whalers ever need help, make me know, link me. So him called me September 27, 2014, and asked me if he audition with whalers and send them 3 Bob Marley and the Whalers tune, you know? And fast forward to 2015, January 28, we land with the spacecraft in California, and that was my beginning with whalers the next day, you know. And Aston came on later on, a few months later, but I started out working with Family Man.
Okay.
And learned a great deal, just observing, being around the original Whalers school, you know, which is also a school of Lee Scratch Perry, Jah rest him soul, you know?
Yeah, royalty.
Upsetters, history, hippie boys, you know? Family Man and Carly. So now when Aston B. Jr. finally joined me on tour, you see what I love about Aston is him is a kindred spirit musically like myself. You know, like how him soak up music and knowledge around him. Because him is knowledgeable musically beyond reggae music as well. And film style is like, when it comes to the Whalers' musical heritage, there was a lot invested in him musically between his father, the great Family Man, between his uncle, Carlton Barrett, Jah rest him soul, and his grandfather, Joseph Higgs, who was the Whalers' vocal coach.
Dang.
You know?
Didn't know that.
Yes, his grandfather. So when it comes to Whalers' sound, he has that's his heartbeat, you know, by DNA, like he can't help it. The man loved loved Whalers to pieces.
You know, one thing that I thought was interesting when we were kicking it we were kicking it at the hotel, and he came in and we were talking, and he was telling the story, and it was about, from what I remember, it was Bob Marley. He was very young, and they were walking up through some mountain or just some stuff or whatever. And it was funny because he wasn't saying it to show off or to say like, oh, this is my life or whatever. That's just his reality, you know what I'm saying? Like of his heritage and his lineage and all that, the same way that, like, you know, you could talk about New York, you know what I'm saying? Or I could talk about California. His is his uncle, his father, Bob Marley, you know, Jamaica, like all this stuff. And at the same time, he was very humble, man. He was very humble. Like there was nothing on him that was like extra. And it was like he was as cool as you were. And I was like, dang. And what made it larger to me, I didn't understand he was the musician that he was. And not to say that puts him on a pedestal or whatever, but it was just three brothers kicking it. You know what I'm saying? And then when I saw him go to do his thing, I was like, I get it now. You know what I'm saying?
Come on.
Like I get it
personally.
Yeah.
You know, and you can hear it.
Yeah, and you know what? I like people like I'll use Brown as an example.
Yeah, man. Big up Pharcyde, brethren for life.
Yeah, that's my partner. So he's two people. He's the dude who goes out on the stage and does his thing. But when he's off the stage doesn't define him. You know what I'm saying? That's like something that he leaves. Like literally, when he hands me the mic and he's off the stage, that's his
Yeah.
that's like his part. He doesn't carry the stage around with him with every person he interacts with. It'll like, he's even told me that people will ask him, aren't you? And he'll be hesitant. He'll tell them he's not gonna play him, but that's just not his thing to just put it out there like, oh, I'm this guy, you know, rah rah rah. Right. So with all that being said, who's your favorite bass player?
My favorite bass player, I have to say Marcus Miller, man. Marcus Miller. Marcus Miller is a man after my own heart. Like what you said about Q-Tip is same thing about Miles Davis.
Okay.
Look how many great musicians work with Miles Davis and become great leaders in their own right. You know, Marcus Miller is one of them brethren. It's funny, me and McQueen was watching House Party, and I didn't notice until the other day that was, I know Marcus Miller had the film score, but also Lenny White, the great Lenny White, Return to Forever, you know, and Jarez, brother Chick Corea, you know. So, you know, it's like he like film style, he was a man where learned all of the styles around him, like as a musician, and versatile. And you can't box him in a one box because as a 70s youth and musician and grow up and hearing Larry Graham. You know, when you hear Marcus Miller, you hear a great part of Larry Graham. And I've been blessed to watch Marcus and Larry and Victor Bailey play together on stage one time. And Rebecca from Ujima Sound said, Josh, why don't you go up on stage? I say, your mother. Like I might have freeze, my hands might have locked. Like, I mean, to see the heritage from me, like I didn't understand. Like I'm watching like a spiritual father to a son, Larry Graham and Marcus. And then Victor Bailey, who came up, you know, I know him from Weather Report. But, you know, all of these men are legends. You know, it's like I seen Marcus, he also, you know, produced for Luther Vandross, and when you hear all of them classic sounds, when you hear him play jazz music, when him play fretless, like if you love Jaco Pastorius, listen to a song called Moons by Marcus Miller. If the man don't sing you into one space zone on the bass, you know, and it's like the album Tales, they have a song called Ethiopia, and Kenny Garrett and, you know, Fuji Bell and what the man bring together is another thing about him as a musician. Same thing like we say about Q-Tip. Having come from the experience of Miles, you know how to bring together a cast of musicians to accomplish whatever musical sound he was trying to convey. So them kind of people me study as a musician say, if me want bring about the best reggae music sound, we study the Wailers, we study Peter Tosh, we study the Abyssinians, we study all of these different schools, because now when the sound cook in my head, in my iris, in my heart now I can, by the grace of God, know who can bring out that sound. See? So like, yeah. So me learn from the masters, you know?
So if you could pick your dream verses, dead or alive, what two groups, what two musicians, what two singers, whatever, who would you like to see go head up?
Oh, all right. You ready? I mean, it's kind of obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway. But Marley and the Wailers and MJ.
Dang.
You know why? Because like, when you look at, all right, the Jackson 5 went to the Jacksons. They went to visit Bob Marley and the Wailers in Hope Road when they were teenagers. And the Jacksons on the variety show. This is before I was born. I was born in 81, but I do my history. They did, I Shot the Sheriff on their variety show. And, you know, Michael went into his thing in his 20s, you know, and to his 30s into the pop world. But then you start seeing Michael when it come with the album Bad and Man in the Mirror. I remember the 1987 Grammys when Michael, he sang The Way You Make Me Feel, just snapping his fingers and some strings and just walking like some James Dean or, you know, some Fred Astaire kind of. And I said, yo, how does man make the song swing so? And then they sang Man in the Mirror, and I was like, for a man who has such pop credibility, for this man to sing a conscious song, you know,
Yeah.
I know he's like, and even to his last concert, man, I think we were on the road in England one time when Michael announced that This Is It tour. I think we were all on the road one time for Rock the Bells. And I was like, I'm out to hit Tip Up. Like, I'm not missing this concert. Little did we know, Mike was like, I'm out. Y'all got it.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So with that being said, I've been to several shows. You've been to several shows, hip hop shows, non-hip hop shows, festivals. What has been the most memorable show that you've ever seen? It could be Whalers, it could be non-Whalers. You know what I'm saying?
Man, I have to say, P-Funk, man. And you was there, see, and like that's another show like that. I'm just blessed to be there to be a part of it, let alone witness it. But Cali, when Whalers opened, we did a show together with GC, George Clinton, and Parliament Funkadelic. Like, anytime you see P-Funk is an experience, but then like, if you hear a song that you never heard before, that funk is like, for me, that's where I come from. So like being a witness to that, it was like, yeah, big up Gary Scheider, Star Child Jr., you know?
Man, great dude, man. Great dude.
Man. He was there, and those were the times when we were meeting, and I would see him. I came to a few shows, and he would like, hey, come down. And I was like, man, you know, like, that's just one that I always remember.
I didn't mean to get mushy with him, but I told him, man, your father would be proud, man. Your father would really be proud. Like, because I was telling him that I was watching the NPR Tiny Desk George Clinton performance.
Yeah.
And I told him what he's doing is like real. He's not just someone who's his father's son who's there strumming a guitar and singing some stuff. He's funkadelic. You know what I'm saying?
Totally, man. Like, that's the thing is what critics and people who follow critics don't understand is we are not here to make our heritage become a museum thing where people pay money for go watch something that don't exist in real time. If we don't uphold our heritage, who will?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's important and incumbent upon us, whether you're bloodline or a student of a school, you know, you must uphold it, represent it, you know, to a degree.
Yeah. So with that being said, where do you see, so you started doing shows now, you bouncing around, you moving around. Where do you see social progression going in the next 5 years?
Within the next 5 years, John, no, my brother, I pray that mankind learn to remember their creator, whether it's young or old. Because if we don't, the next 5 years are going terrible and dread. Because the different ideologies of the day are pulling us outside of ourself, our natural spiritual selves. And who feels it knows it, you know, it's not just like when you look on reggae music, it was a struggle where it did take place in Jamaica that everybody who was a sufferer around the world gravitated to. In these times, those who love truth and rights and consciousness are going to gravitate to the right, to righteousness, to morality, and to liberty, which means we're following God, natural law. And God is Father God, the creator, the lawgiver. Mother God is Mother Nature. And that's how we children are born. We have to honor our father and our mother, honor the law, the morality, and honor Mama, nature of the heart, which is the creator, also a co-part creator with the man. So if we don't remember our innate self, that was terrible and dread, but I pray that mankind will rise to the occasion and be who the Most High created us to be. A man is angel, and you see Rastafari, Empire Selassie the First is the king. Nobody can challenge him. So we don't force Rastafari people, but you know, live up.
Okay. So if what I didn't talk about a lot, but it's been almost a year since we had you last time. So I'll probably be tapping in with you in another year when you have a project going on. Who I didn't talk about, which was really, once again, a great gift that you gave me, Judah Tribe. If people want to listen to some Judah Tribe music, where can they go? Which is your band?
Yes, we're on the social media platform. If you look us up, Judah Tribe Reggae on YouTube, iTunes, our debut album, which is we're celebrating the 8-year anniversary, which is New Beginnings, New Day Dawning, NU Day Dawning. You can find it on iTunes. And if you're interested in purchase a copy, you can also write type on the social platform. Yeah, keep watch because we're in the process of recording our sophomore album. So keep watch, those who have heard us and been supporting us, and those who may not have heard. We're here for the people.
Cool. Do you have any shows coming up right now?
With Judah Tribe right now is studio run-ins until the next shows, but we have some crucial things in the making. Let me tell you, planning for next year, Lord willing, spring and summer. So keep watch because there's some big things up on, and you know, it's time for job people will love truth and rights, people will love life. We have to come together and strengthen one another. And we have to remember, say, we are all brothers and sisters, and the Most High is our creator. So when you hear from us very soon, which you will hear, you know, we're moving that direction. So we hope to see everyone keep a watch, and, you know, till next year and forward, you're going to hear some big things.
Yes, sir. Well, no, man, once again, man, it's been a pleasure. Very great conversation. I'm going to check in with you in the next 7 days on some whole other stuff. You know what I'm saying? Always a pleasure. But once again, man, take care, and I appreciate the interview.
All right, man. Thanks for having us, and blessed love to Pharcyde crew. I want to say a special thanks to Sister Jenny, and Brother Ivis, Jah rest him soul, at the People's Festival in Delaware, who had us perform, and it was a great occasion for Judah Tribe to forward. More love to Splendid Radio every time. PharcydeTV, one love, one God, one aim, one destiny.